Hello and welcome to the After Credits podcast. This is our episode on Deadpool and Wolverine. Robert has been
Hey,
wifed up,
boy.
so he is not joining us today. It's just me and Brandon. And yeah, if you're one of our new
Nothing's
subscribers,
changed. Same old.
yeah, if you're one of our new subscribers, we had a comparatively our Acolyte upload did really well compared to everything else we do. So, and we've noticed a few new subscribers in our account. So if you're one of those guys, welcome. We hope you enjoy the channel, and we hope you like these videos. Check us out every Sunday for a new upload, and whenever there's a big event film like Deadpool and Wolverine or the new Alien, if it's getting good, look out for.
It looks good, to be fair.
It does look good. So if you don't see an episode in our weekly videos, that's probably because we're saving it for one of these videos, which is a standalone. But with that said, we will get into it. And I think we'll just give some general points and our thoughts on the film.
Now, are we just going pure spoilers or what?
I think we're going to go spoilers from the get-go, so this is your spoiler warning because this film's going to be massive. If you're watching this video, you've probably seen the film. If you haven't, why are you watching this? Go see the film. Uh, give the Marvel machine your money, and if that's what it takes to get us a sponsor, that's what I'm going to say.
I mean, by the looks of it, it's already got everyone's money because it's breaking
Exactly.
every form of record right now. So it's good.
So I think
Honestly.
we'll go full spoilers from the get-go. So this is your final warning. We're going full spoilers, but we're going to do general points, and then we're going to go into, I guess, more specific things or work our way through the film. Yeah. So
Okay.
why don't you give us your general thoughts on the film, Brandon?
I think, and I think this is just going to kind of sum up my whole opinion on the film. Because honestly, like I really liked it. Let's just say that to begin with. But like, I didn't know how to rate the film because it's like one of those films where it's like as a fan, it just gives you everything you want. Like as a movie, it's kind of hard to judge because it's like it is a lot of just fan service. But it's like I'll eat that up. You know what I mean? So it's like and with a biased point of view, I'm gonna like it. So frick it, I'm gonna just say I like the film. Um, so yeah, like I said, it's kind of hard to recommend to people who maybe don't have like an insight. Like for example, I was working at the cinema today, and this mum and her child doesn't like use like an adult. Um, but she was like, "Oh, do you think I'll like the film?" And I'm like, "I don't know, like, because like if you don't get it, you're not gonna get it. You know what I mean? And
I
Deadpool's his own comedy and violence. You know what I mean? So it's like it's not gonna be for everyone. So
I
it
basically
is
had
kind
the
of hard
same
to
thing with
recommend.
my own family as well, where we'd kind of organized to go see it as a family, but
Hmm.
um, I know my dad would like it, especially because of one of the massive cameos in this film. But I kind of, my sister was looking forward to it, even though she hadn't seen any other Deadpool films. And my mum, she likes, like, we went to see Bullet Train together as a family, so she likes that kind of comedy.
Mm.
But even then, even with that said, I don't know if I can recommend this to someone who isn't already a Marvel fan because it is just so jam-packed of Marvel things. And this is kind of my view on it, is that I liked it. I don't know if I'll like it on a second watch as much, because all of the surprise is gone. I mean, they did their fucking damnedest to remove all the surprise anyway with the marketing. I don't know what the fuck they're on smoking, but
Yeah.
the fact that they spoiled a few of these cameos is mind-boggling. I think it's, I think it's a fine film, but I had a really good time in the cinema watching it.
Yeah, especially with our circumstances as well, because like we did watch it with like a whole big group of pals, free tickets, you know, like so it's like
Well,
we were going to enjoy ourselves pretty much no matter what, you know what I
that's not
mean?
how you're supposed to watch this film. It's a bit,
Mhm.
it's kind of got that No Way Home vibe where there's not as noticeable in this film, I would say, apart from maybe one scene, but there are definitely kind of echoes back to that scene where Andrew Garfield runs through the portal, and there's just like a Friends level pause
This is where you
in the
cheer.
screen,
Yeah,
and it's like, yeah, basically here's your applause
yeah.
sign, which is fine in the cinema when you watch it on opening night, but when you come home and you're watching it with your parents, and you're like, that's kind of an awkward pause. What's going on?
That's interesting. That's interesting. I'm planning on watching it again anyway, so I'll have like a different take, I'm sure, when
Do we
I see
dare
it
put
again.
numbers on it? I don't like. I don't mind putting numbers on things, but I find I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I'm finding it hard to judge because I guess as an experience, I would probably give it like an 8 or an 8.5,
Yeah,
maybe even a
yeah.
9. But because I had such a good time. But I can honestly see myself giving this film like a 6 or a 7 based on quality the next time I watch it.
I'm kind of around that as well. Like, if entertainment wise, yeah, high 8, and then as a film, probably a 7. But like, it's hard to like separate them. You know what I mean? Because it's like it is supposed to be just an entertaining film. You know,
Yeah,
they're clearly not going to go for like, oh, this is like a masterpiece of like storytelling. Where it's like at points there's some good ones, but you know, like you know what you were getting in, like getting when you were going in. Like we've seen the last two films, they're not meant to be like this like dramatic story or whatever. Obviously, there's dramatic points and stuff, but like at the end of the day, it's a freaking Deadpool film. Like it's going to crack jokes and be a little bit silly and break the fourth wall and all that sort of jazz. And like you said, it's not for everyone, but everyone hyped for this film knew what they were getting, like knew what they were getting. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, I think yeah, but overall, that's probably my first first feelings coming out
yeah.
was that sort
And
of vibe.
I think this is going to be one of the films where I actually do have a positive view in it, but I am going to talk a lot of shit about it. So it may come across that I don't like this film, but and if you skipped ahead of this bit, maybe you will think that. But
Mm.
this is my like disclaimer. I don't think this film's shit, and I did have a good time watching it. But I also have to say that watching all three films back to back, the Deadpool films, I think it is the worst of the three as well.
Interesting, interesting.
So, and I honestly, when I went and seen Deadpool 2 for the first time in the cinema, I didn't really like that film. I've only kind of grown to like the second Deadpool. And I actually think Deadpool 1 has aged quite badly in places as well. But even
So
with
when
those
you say like
caveats,
this film's like an 8 out of 10 in an entertainment level, would you rank the other two films higher than that on the entertainment scale, or just as a
I
film they're
think
better?
they're clearly better films, both of them.
Right,
In terms of entertainment, I think the jokes are also better in the other two films, bar a few in this film.
right. I
I think
see.
Ryan Reynolds has. I like that Ryan Reynolds has settled into his groove. He has his niche in Hollywood. The only problem is that his niche in Hollywood is kind of Deadpool without the mask. So to see Deadpool in the mask, it's been 8 years since we had Deadpool 2. You know, when Deadpool 1 came out, like, he'd been in things. You know, he was in comedies. He'd been in The Proposal and stuff like that. But that's like your mum's film.
Yeah.
Deadpool's, you know what I mean? Like, thing is, Deadpool's not like deep. You know what I mean? It's just, it is a lot of like ass crack and like sweaty ball jokes and, oh, you know, like, it's not deep shit. But I do think the other two are funnier films. I think more of their jokes land, and they have tighter stories. So as films, I think the first two are better.
See,
As
I
an
see.
experience, it's hard because, like you say, we've only had like a good vibe going into this one.
Yeah.
But I like Ryan Reynolds is firing on all cylinders in this film. I think,
Honestly, almost everyone is. You know what I mean?
and
Like
Hugh
Hugh
Jackman
Jackman
certainly
killed
is.
it,
But
obviously. In fact, that's an interesting take because you weren't like the biggest fan of Logan, right? So, what was your thoughts of Jackman coming back?
I will say another disclaimer before I say that. It's been I haven't seen Logan probably since the year after it came out, and
Yeah,
I was a dumb teenager. So
yeah.
this is like an 8, however old that film is, -1, that many years old opinion that I've like carried into adulthood. I haven't went back and watched it,
We'll get back
but
to
I
it.
don't know.
We'll get back.
We'll get back to Logan, but I I've since watched some scenes from Logan that I quite like, especially the Xavier stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't remember loving Logan when I was younger. So I don't kind of have that reverence in my head for that film going into this one. Having said that, the intro to this film, where they basically just dig up his body, is fucking hilarious. Either way.
Yeah.
Uh,
When they're like bring the full process, like, oh, how are we going to like cherish the memory of Logan and Logan and how good that film was? Like, we're not. It's gonna freaking bury him up,
dig up his corpse
you
and
know.
use it in an action musical scene.
But I think that's important as well, is that the film kind of banks on you kind of understanding the history of the X-Men and Fox superheroes and stuff like that. So, like for me, I've seen all of the X-Men films. I've seen most of the other Fox films as well. So I kind of got most of the references, even the sort of obscure ones as well, that I kind of had to explain to some of our other friends in the group that watched it with us. What about yourself? Though? Like, were you like Have you seen all the X-Men
Well,
before?
I've definitely seen most, if not all, of the X-Men series,
Hmm.
apart from the newest of the
Like
like the
Dark Phoenix or
McAvoy film.
something?
I haven't seen Dark Phoenix, but I get the gist. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. They don't really reference it anyway. So
I don't think I've seen Apocalypse either, actually. So maybe I've only seen First Class and
Future
Days
Past.
of Future Past.
Yeah,
Yes, I remember liking those two.
that's a banger. Yeah.
The original X-Men films, I definitely grew up with, but never loved growing up. They were just on.
Mm.
So I've definitely seen them. Actually, probably this is going to the film I probably watched the most as a kid from the X-Men is probably X-Men Origins Wolverine, honestly.
That's rough.
I,
That's rough.
I watched that one. That's the Wolverine film I grew up with, honestly.
Jeez,
Yeah.
oh. Jeez,
So
oh.
I never understood comics when I was a kid. I didn't know Deadpool was supposed to be bad. I liked that film. I liked the Blob, and I liked Hugh Jackman in that film.
Well, yeah, because I
But
never grew up with them either. My first X-Men film was The Wolverine, set in Japan. That was the first one I seen. So I didn't know any
okay,
history or anything like that. It's not until Days of Future Past was coming out, I was like, all right, I want to watch everything because this looks sick. And that's when I kind of caught up
right.
um,
But
with all that stuff.
back to your question, I I think this film suffers from what the MCU has kind of been suffering from, except not with MCU, but with Fox in a way. You
Mm,
know how like you can't. It's like why is Nick Fury on the space station, or why is he not on the space station, or why is he hanging around with Captain Marvel? You have to watch in Secret Invasion. It's like, why is Wanda bad now? Or you have to watch this. You have to watch WandaVision. I think this film kind of suffers from that, but it's like, oh, what's happening? And it's a bit like, oh, you have to watch Fox, like X-Men universe. It kind
yeah.
of suffers a bit for that, and even a bit from Loki as well. I think they kind of get away with it because they're allowed to go, what the hell is that thing? And he goes, it's Eliath from Loki season 1, episode 5. Like, I think that for this film, that's a really like fun way to get around that problem.
Yeah. And I think what they did with tying into Loki's season was better than what they did with the WandaVision with Doctor Strange. I think they explained it fairly quickly and right away, kind of thing, you know? So it's not like they weren't
And
hampering on
it's
it
more
too long.
overtly connected because if things are loosely connected, one, you don't want to have to waste time explaining things,
Hmm.
and two, it almost feels expected of you by the movie. But when you just kind of address it and you go, Deadpool's in the TVA, what's the TVA? And then you just kind of show it.
Yeah.
You don't need to have the call. Like, obviously, the callbacks are nice for people who have,
Hmm. For
but you
sure.
don't necessarily need to have seen Loki.
Like for us, it's like, oh, the TV, we get that. We recognize the woman from the Loki show as well, so it's nice to see her little cameo, stuff like that. You know, we know how it all works. We know how the I don't know what they call it, but like when you get zapped, like we know that area, like we understand it all. Maybe even the big cloud dragon, like that's been referenced before. We didn't actually see it before, I don't think though. So this is the first time seeing it. So it's like we're all used to this, but for someone who hasn't seen it, like our friend, I'm just gonna call him Ewan. Freaking, he's clueless. You know, he's like, "What's all this?" Like, I don't know. Like,
The reference he did get in this film was Blade. So that's like the last comic book movie or
yeah,
like, yeah, that's his style of film. So, but okay, so well, you know what? We'll take the cat out of the bag. Cameos.
yeah,
What do you think about the cameos?
awesome. I know, like I said, like it's clearly just like what did I call it earlier? Just like it's just for the fans. You know what I mean? It's the total like fan service. That's it. But I'll eat it up. You know, especially like this type of film. It's like Endgame a little bit, where it's like I don't even care if like if it like makes sense. I'll just eat up because it's cool. You know what I mean? Like seeing like freaking like you said, Blade and Elektra and bloody Gambit. Gambit was a big one for me because I was like big in the fandom and in news at this point where he was supposed to be getting his own film and it just never happened for like 10 years and they just gave up on it. So to see him finally get it was kind of funny because it's just like, all right, brilliant. And they make a joke about it like, oh yeah, he's been stuck here the whole time. That's why he's not got his film. Stuff like that. I don't think it's gonna like lead into anything. I don't think he'll get his own film or anything like that. But it was fun to see it like happen in this of all places. Um, if I was to say my favorite cameo though, it would. I don't even know if this counts because we all kind of knew she was going to be in it, but Buddy Laura from the Logan film, Daphne Keen's character, because I just love their whole dynamic and stuff like that. and to finally see her. I know we said this in Acolyte. It's just good to see her in a good role because like she was done dirty in the bloody Acolyte show, so it's really good to see her actually. Oh no, she is good. If anything, she should have been this star of the bloody Acolyte. Make her the main character. You know what I mean? Like Jesus Christ, like she can actually act. So it's like it's just a big shame. But to see her
But yeah,
like in the limelight here, especially
there's
with bloody
probably
Hugh Jackman, it's hard to look bad with him. Like Jesus Christ, like he'll make
there's
anyone
probably
look
a
good.
grand total of what 6, 7 months between filming Acolyte and filming this. So
Probably, yeah. I can't
we know
imagine she was
she
on set long either for this. You know what I
no.
mean? So
So we know she has it. It was a dumb it's a dumb reason to cover up in makeup, and it's dumb to have her just stand in the room and talk
yeah,
and then die.
just mad,
So
man. It's just mad because like she just looks the part and everything. Like she really just does have it all. Um, for so like I think she's like what 19, 18, 19, something like that. So it's like mate, she can like she's so young and she's so talented. So it's like mate, freaking just strap her to the min, man. Like Jesus Christ. But trying to think of any other like big standards. Obviously, freaking Chris Evans was hilarious. Like Jesus Christ. Like
yeah, yeah. Chris Evans, I think Chris Evans, and then probably followed by Wesley Snipes
Wesley
for
Snipes
me,
was fun. Yeah, that was fun.
because I really did not expect Wesley Snipes at all.
Well, he's like actually retired, right, from
Yeah,
film. Yeah.
and I was kind of under the impression that he hated Ryan Reynolds,
Well,
so
yeah, I
he
saw an
would never be
interview
in a film
where
with him.
he was saying like, "Oh, Ryan called him." He's just like, "Why is this guy calling me?" He was like, "Oh, I've got a thing for you." He was like, "Well, if you can make it happen, I'll come." So apparently that's how it worked out. Yeah, kind of mad.
Fair, but yeah, I thought they just had such a bad working relationship that just would never even be on the
Mm.
cards. But yeah, I think his jokes were also pretty funny, where he's like, "There's only ever going to be one blade, me,"
Yeah,
and shit like that.
at
And
this
it's
rate
like,
there
yeah,
will
you're
be.
probably right.
So
Yeah.
honestly, no, there's just so many though. There's just so many little cameos. Like even like Henry Cavill as Bloody Wolverine was sick because that was like a big rumor
That's true.
of
Yeah,
him
I
being
actually forgot about
Wolverine.
that one. That one comes
Yeah,
so early in the film as well, and it's
was
so
very early.
spaced out from all the other ones that actually by the end of the film I kind of forgot he was in it until the
Hmm.
credits came up.
Hmm.
But
I don't think I don't think that'll be a hint towards him being the real Wolverine. I think it'll be like a John Krasinski thing with Mr. Fantastic, where it's just like, oh, fan cast. Here's a little
just
fan
having fun.
cast cameo, you know. I think it'll be something like that. I think they'll cast a younger Wolverine if they do want to bring him in to the MCU like properly. Um, but yeah, no, honestly, there's just so many. I'm probably forgetting like tons. Because like they got like Juggernaut and stuff like that as well. Pyro was a big one for me because I didn't even recognize him at first, but he is from like the OG original X-Men films, Pyro and
Yeah,
Iceman. I was like, what? I did not
and
even clock that, but yeah,
there is a
not
lot
until he was name
actually.
dropped.
Since I've watched the film, I didn't notice he's in the film, but since I watched the film, there is actually a lot more in the background that I never noticed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Apparently the Blob's in there
All
from
right.
Origins Wolverine, and fuck, I can't remember anymore. But yeah, apparently there's a few more in there that I just did not clock. I
Yeah,
don't even remember when they are in the film. I'm assuming it's that Ant-Man scene, but fuck knows.
probably.
The What do you think about the villain?
Which one?
Well, that's a good illustration of kind of one of my criticisms of this film is which villain, because I don't think the TVA guy really works all that. I get he's not supposed to be like a villain, but I don't think he's up to much.
Yeah.
And then Cassandra Nova, is that her name?
Yeah.
Something like that. Xavier's twin, but apparently she's not actually his twin. Fuck comics, man.
Watch
But
Twin or something. Yeah.
anyway, and they say in the film it's a twin, so it's his twin that killed him in the womb or whatever the fuck people decided to write.
Mm.
I think she does a good performance. I don't necessarily think her. I don't know. It doesn't really come together. I don't think for me.
She's
But I
tough
actually
because they
do like.
tried to like play her as sympathetic, but then she's instantly bad again. So it's just like it's hard to kind
And
of
I'm
get behind you, you know?
actually perfectly fine with just a villain who's bad for being bad. I don't think you
Yeah,
need
yeah,
sympathetic villain
yeah.
for one, because obviously, like you say, if they're just going to heel turn anyway, what's the point? The other
Hmm.
thing is, I don't think they don't always need to raise the stakes to, oh, the multiverse is in peril. They always do this. They always have to like Dragon Ball Z themselves, where like, oh, the last villain did this, so we have to do this bigger. I think it's perfectly fine for her to just be after Logan, you know?
Right.
where it's like just keep it as a Deadpool Wolverine and her, and it's just like she wants something from them. She wants like Logans are rare. She wants a Logan, someone
Hmm.
like that. Have her be like the Collector. You know, like is that his name? Jeff Goldblum, the Collector?
Uh,
No,
the
that's his
Grandmaster
brother,
or
right?
something.
The Grandmaster. But can I have her be like the Grandmaster of the Void, I guess, where it's like she collects variants or something like that, and Wolverines are rare, so
That'd be
she's like,
cool.
I want this Wolverine. Just keep it in the family because I think extending her motivations out to like the multiverse just starts to get a bit muddled, and the stakes just don't feel real because you know nothing's really going to happen in this film that matters. Like it
Yeah.
just never felt like earnest, I guess. But I actually did like, yeah, like I say, I liked her performance. After I know I recognized her in the film, but because she's bald, I was like, who the fuck is she? She was Princess Diana in the Crown in the latest two seasons, I think.
Mm.
But I liked her in that. I liked her in this. She puts on a good performance. She's creepy when she needs to be creepy. She has her kind of like villain intro.
Yeah. I
The
think she just needed more screen time, honestly. Just like because there was no scenes with just her, right? It was all she was only on screen when Deadpool and Wolverine were with her, I believe. So you
there
only
might have been
really
like
get to see her from their point of view.
one or two with her and her little henchman. Like Pyro was Pyro her henchman
Maybe,
guy,
maybe
but
something like that. Yeah, but it's not enough. You know what I mean? Like amp it up because even though like this is a big like comparison, right? We always say like, oh, you don't want to be like a Ronin from Guardians, where it's just like he's such like a minor part of the story compared to the rest of the film. You know what I mean? Like nobody cares about Ronin the Accuser, but everyone loves the first Guardians. Like people like you and me would probably give that film a 10. But even though the villain is like so mid, you know what I mean? So you can get away with it,
yeah.
but it's just annoying me you see some potential there, and she is like genuinely OP. Um, it's just a shame to not see it be
Well,
used
that's
that.
one part is that she kind of just has like OP powers she doesn't use for reasons.
Hmm.
And the other thing is I don't even think you needed to kill her off. I think you could have had her stick around as like a kind of just like a faction of bad guy in the void that people are in the future going to have to look out for. I don't think you had to get rid of her. You know,
Yeah,
I think this is another thing with films I've been seeing recently where it almost feels like you have to dust off a villain, like you have to yeah, you have to like get rid of a villain at the end of the film or something like that. Where it's like I'm perfectly fine with a film that's satisfying and basically by the end of the story the hero just survives the villain. They don't necessarily best them. You know, this is
yeah,
especially in horror films. There's a lot of horror films recently where it's like they have to kill the monster at the end, or they have to like beat the shit out of the monster or something like that, and it's like, can you not just like survive it and just get away by the skin of your teeth? That's
hmm,
kind of what I feel like they should have done in this, where it's like they got away from her, she can't find them, whatever, you know, something like that. But because I actually quite like her, and you know, multiverse things they can probably bring her back, but why
yeah.
bother? Like, I actually quite liked her, and I wish she had maybe stuck around a little bit more. But
Because when you think about it, Loki's the only villain really that's like survived and continued to be a character throughout the rest of the universe. You know what I mean? Because he was in Thor one and then was the main villain in the first Avengers and then stuck through all the way up until Endgame and now got his own show. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So he's had so much development, whereas like no other villains had that level at all.
unless they do Kung Fu Panda 4 and just bring everyone back at some point, imagine that in
Yeah,
Secret Wars or something, they just bring all the
I
villains
mean
back.
they could, but like fuck
Fantastic.
that. But yeah, whereas the guy I found out, like the Proximus, I think was it Proximus? Or no, I'm getting mixed up. Is that what he called him? I can't remember what they called him.
Are you talking about
The
Paradox?
Paradox. That's it. I was calling him bloody Proximus. Apparently, in the comics, he's a variant of Mobius. So people were thinking Owen Wilson should have played him, but I don't know if that would have been too confusing or not for people who don't watch the show because they'd be like, "Oh, he's an evil guy." But also, I don't know how variants work in the TVA because surely there's no variants of anyone because they're like the one. They should be the only one around, right? So I don't know how that works.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
apparently, I found out.
they've not really been too consistent with the rules of the TVA.
Yeah.
I guess partly because the TVA has changed a couple times since
Mm.
we've followed it, but also things like does time pass in the TVA? It seems like yes, but not in a linear way, you know? Because like timelines diverge, and it's like there is a ticking clock on those,
Hmm.
but you can kind of just travel to any time from the TVA, so it's a bit of a strange, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of a strange one. They haven't really delved into like the lore, and I'm honestly quite happy about
I'm
that. I don't
also
really.
a bit confused, like, because they were saying the anchor was Wolverine, and because he died, the universe is falling apart. But I don't understand. I don't understand why that happens though, because it's not like he did a decision that wasn't meant to happen, like in Loki, where
Yeah,
he like, oh, stole the Tesseract and he's alive. It's like, no, you should be dead.
I think part of
You
that
know,
decision to include anchor beams is a bit strange because we have seen the TVA multiple times now, and they have never brought up anything to do with anchor beings or
I don't
nexus
think so
beings or whatever.
anyway. Yeah, I just didn't understand that because then it's like it just means like, well, does that mean like why is Wolverine the only anchor in that, but not an anchor in other universes? You know
I
what I
mean,
mean?
the thing is,
So it's just confusing.
I think in the moment it worked because I knew they were just using it as an allegory for like, oh, Wolverine was the biggest draw for Fox. He was like the guy.
Yeah.
So now that he's gone, that universe is dead. I just took it as a joke,
Right. Right.
and that's fine, I think, to take it as a joke in the moment. But then when it's also, I guess, like necessary to the plot,
Mm.
there's also weird things where it's like, why is Paradox telling Deadpool to like come with him? Because it's like, surely he knows Deadpool has people he cares about in that universe. And he's just like, oh, by the way, that whole universe is going to die and you can't bring anyone with you. But I'm going to tell you that right now. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, do you want to be on my team? It's a bit like, you don't need to do that. Like,
And I think that brings on the sort of biggest negative of the film. And I didn't even realize it until we talked in the car about it, and you were saying how they kind of retconned the last film about Vanessa. So they intentionally kind of ruined that to give him some form of reason to want to be an Avenger and stuff like that, want to be a good guy,
and I
even though it
don't
doesn't
think
really
that,
make sense.
I don't think it's honestly a problem in itself. I just think it's a problem in the way it's executed because they kind of make out that after the events of Deadpool 2, Deadpool gives up being Deadpool.
Mm,
And then not only does he give up being Deadpool, he also loses the girl, which is kind of the opposite message of every other superhero film because it's usually like Peter Parker, like he can't have the girl and the superhero, right?
yeah.
And be the superhero. This one's like, oh, well, he didn't be the superhero. He just didn't be anything. So
Mm,
she left him. It wasn't really clear why she left him. It wasn't clear when they broke up. It was just like in an indiscriminate point between Deadpool 2 and Deadpool 3, they separated.
yeah.
And it's like, I mean, fair enough, but realistically, they were good together in both films.
Hmm.
You never got the impression that there was anything that could kind of bring them apart. Obviously, things can happen in real life, but this ain't real life. Which is an important thing for storytelling. It's not real fucking life.
It's just hard to buy when in the last film you literally went back in time and everything to like
Well, that
save
was
her
the
and
climax,
stuff, you
right?
know?
The
So
post
it's like,
credits was literally, like you
yeah,
say, like if you knew that someone had went back in time just to save your life so they could spend time with you, why the fuck would you ever break up with them? Not that you should,
yeah, it's just, it's a
you know what I
hard
mean?
sell.
Like it's a hard sell, and because it is so necessary to him, like I don't even. It's honestly, it feels a little bit to me like the Happy Hogan Aunt May one as well, where it's like, why did you even bother breaking them up? Especially because she dies in that film. Spoiler for No Way Home, by the way. She dies in that film, and it's like Happy Hogan is like crying and shit like that when she dies because he obviously cares for her. But it's like, why not just keep them a couple then? And that would make it more heartbreaking when she does die, because now it just looks like he's like a simp crying over his ex, and it's like, bruh, why bother? Like, why bother breaking them up? And it's kind of the same here, where it's like, is there really a narrative reason to break? Like, I feel like he would still be doing what he's doing in this film, even if they were together.
The
You
only
know?
thing I can think of is that because they're broken up, that gives them a sort of reason to be like, yeah, like maybe I should just leave. Like there's nothing really here for me because she was like the main thing keeping me grounded, you know? But
I guess,
then,
but I feel like he would
yeah,
be that Happy Hogan type as well, where it's like he would just care for her anyway. It's not like just because she broke up with him, he's okay with her dying now. Like,
hmm, hmm,
that doesn't really make any sense. And especially because there is no grounds for it in the previous two films. They just like throw it in here as if it just because it almost gaslights you at the start. And I think this is why you say like it you never twigged until we're in the car. It's because the film just kind of assumes that you remember that they broke up, and I'm like, but I don't remember that.
yeah, I
Like,
didn't, yeah.
what?
Like I remember all the characters and stuff, but I was like, when did that happen? I was just, but I was just rolling with it, you know. Which is like fair enough. Like at the end of the day, Deadpool 2 and 3 were never meant to be like this. You know what I mean? Like Deadpool 3 was never supposed to be this whole Disney MCU movie. You know, it was supposed to be a Fox film, so they probably did have to make some changes just to kind of, you know, fit with what they were wanting in this MCU version of Deadpool 3.
Yeah.
Um, which like fair enough, because like I said, like it's not even I didn't have an issue with it until you brought it up. You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
it's not that big of a deal. It's just interesting that they had to do that.
Probably say that's honestly part of the decision not to call this Deadpool 3 as well, is that
Probably.
it isn't really going to be a sequel to the previous two. It is just like they're literally plucking their character out from the Fox universe and then putting him in somewhere else. It's not really supposed to. Like, obviously there are elements that carry over,
Yeah.
but it's only really to bookend the film.
Hmm.
They don't. That's not what the film is. So I think even to call it Deadpool 3 would probably be disingenuous as well. So I'm kind of glad like that part of the marketing is the way it is, where it's like this is Deadpool and Wolverine because that's what the film is, and that's what the film excels at is them.
Yeah.
I will quickly. I've just got Robert's message up here. He does have a quick review,
Alright,
so
let's go through it.
I'll read out his little points. He's given it an 8 out of 10, so he's obviously pretty positive on it as well. He says second best at the franchise, but hasn't said which one. I don't know if you have any which one he thinks is best. I'm assuming one.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I
I'm assuming
feel like
one.
he prefers number two. I think he prefers number two, if I was to guess.
Okay, we're
But
split,
that
but
probably
it
means
could be
it's the
Robert.
opposite.
So,
So, so
yeah. So it's not one and it's not two, but it's the second best out of the franchise.
yeah,
It felt like Endgame, where there were a lot of cool moments, but I thought the story was good, nothing special. Hugh Jackman was great. Laura was great. He loved every cameo, but he just wished Daniel Radcliffe was a Wolverine as well. In fact, not even that. He wished Daniel Radcliffe played the small Wolverine, the comic accurate one, which is actually I think one of the funniest bits at the start of the film.
that's
I
quite
think,
funny.
to be fair, I think the start of the film was really good in general. He wanted to see more Deadpools. Rip Nice Pool. Loved the fight scenes. CGI was let down. Liked both the villains and thought the movie took itself too seriously and the right amount of funny. I would probably disagree. I think it takes itself just the right amount of seriously. I think it does walk that line pretty well between like given character beats their due,
Yeah,
and even though they're kind of retreading old ground, it's with like new versions, I guess. So like the campfire scene, like with Hugh Jackman, they
yeah,
don't do a Marvel and just have a really heartfelt scene and then go, but hey, let's make it a joke. They just kind of let it
yeah,
ride
man.
and then they
Because
cut.
that is my pet peeve of Marvel films these days. Is exactly what you just said. Like have this like really nice moment and then just a joke,
Who
and it's
talks
like
first? I talk first. You talk first. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that is the bane of my fucking existence in these films. But yeah, so I actually think Deadpool films walk that line extremely well, all three of them. And I think this one
And I think
is
that's
pretty
why they do
much.
well. It's kind of like Guardians as well for me, where it's like they are known for being those like funny films, but there are like genuine like heart and emotion in those films as well. You know what I mean? But I think that's just what Marvel is and is supposed to kind of be as well. Where it's like everyone views it as like, oh, the funny films, like Endgame and Infinity War have so many like great jokes, but they're still like freaking solid like emotion and all that jazz. You know what I mean? So it's like it's really Marvel's at its best when they do have both. You know what I mean? Like if it's just funny like Thor, it's like Thor 4, I mean, Love and Thunder, it's freaking pointless. You know what I mean? Or if you have Eternals where it's just pure freaking, oh, let's just be deep. It's just like, well, I don't care about that either. Like it's good to have a big mix.
14, this is deep, and here's Pink Floyd. That would be the
Yeah,
Eternal for me.
yeah, you know. But even like if you compare it to like a Winter Soldier, that's like clearly more like serious and stuff. It's still got like freaking crazy jokes in there as well, muddled in to like even it out. You know what I mean? So like I said, Marvel's at its best when they do have both. Obviously, Deadpool's going to have slightly more jokes. 'Cause that's just the bloody character. You know what I mean? Like it's literally him. And I agree with you. I think they had a really good mix of both. Where it's like, oh yeah, let's be. Because even like when you try to get and recruiting the Avengers, like yeah, it's like starts off really funny and stuff, and it's like it's also like oh, that's a shame. You know what I mean? Like I'm like oh, like you just look for purpose or whatever, like you know. And then he goes to his little family dinner and stuff, and it's all like good and bad. So it's like I can see it, but no, it's a shame. But
So
as with but when he says Robert, I mean, when he says he wanted more Deadpools, I imagine he wanted more emphasis on the Deadpools because there were obviously hundreds of them. So asking for more is freaking
Yeah, yeah.
That's a
Oh yeah.
mistake.
I think he wanted more masks off, and he wanted more like cameos within the Deadpools.
Yeah,
That's what I'm taking that as. Also,
must
probably
be.
more time because they kind of pop up. They don't really do much. They all die. They all come back, and then they like fuck with Peter, which I'm fine because it's a silly scene, but
Yeah.
and it's supposed to just be like the big eye candy, the finale of the film
Yeah,
before
like
the
they
finale
set
of
it
the film.
up a couple times, so it's not like it's just like it was just completely out of nowhere. Like they were like Nice Pool was saying like, oh, like Lady Pool, she's the top dog, like you're not like she's the scariest one or whatever. And then later on, I think it's Cassandra that says it, where she's like, oh yeah, there's tons of yous. Yeah, I didn't want any yous. Like I just like to I don't want, you know what I mean? Like, I was playing Deadpool's here,
Yeah.
so like they set that up and then they show up. I don't know why they show up, but whatever. It's just a fun action scene, and it was. To be fair, the action throughout was bloody great. To be fair to the film,
No, I was going to get onto. I was going to say there's 2 points I probably want to talk about next, and they were both in Robert's review. Is one is the CGI, and
yeah,
two is the fights.
okay,
So if you want to kind of cover those together,
sure.
I guess. But yeah, why don't you start with the fights?
I think the fights in general are really good. Like, um, they set it up as well really nicely as well, where if, like everyone's been waiting for Wolverine Deadpool, like that's why you're here. Like you want to see them banter and make crack jokes and stuff, but you also want to just see them freaking brutalize each other as well. Because like again, I can speak for you as well. We're not big comic guys, so everything like all this setup is purely just from a movie like fandom viewpoint form. You know what I mean? Like we both love Wolverine, both love Deadpool. Let's just see them together. That's fun. We don't really have any nostalgia for the comics and what they do in there. I know some references, but it's not like I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, that's that one move they did or whatever. But it's just sick. So it's finally, I can imagine for fans that was like the highlight because finally my two favorite
Yeah.
heroes clashing.
I think you made a
You
good
know?
point there, where it's like we don't read the comics, but we still get the references. Where it's like when he's
Yeah.
looking through the Wolverines, I know they're recreating comic book covers
Mm-hmm.
in those scenes. I don't
Yes.
know the comics. I don't know what happens in those comics, but I know that those are like fan, like throws out to fan, like
Yeah.
comic fans as well.
Like for
But
example, the small Wolverine, we know he's meant to be like 4 foot nothing. You know what I mean? So it's like we get the joke. You know what I mean? It's not like we're just oblivious to like, well, Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. It's like no, we understand that there's other versions and stuff.
yeah,
But I think my favorite one was the car fight though. That was hilarious. I think that's my favorite one. When they're fighting inside the car. Um, I think it's tough because like obviously the one with like all the team in that like Gambit and all that sort of jazz and Blade that's sick as well. But I think if I was to pick a favorite, it would be the one where they're fighting inside the car. Just because they get a little bit creative with it as well, like using the seatbelts and all that stuff. But
I think I like the jokes around the fights as well in this, where
yeah,
like you say when they first fight in the void, and he's like, "All right, your yes, your pants are getting tighter," and shit like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's funny
yeah,
shit.
yeah,
And even like you say, like that bit where I think it's this exact same scene where he's like, "Oh yeah, like we know you've been waiting for this. Like here you
hmm
are. Basically, we're throwing you a bone."
yeah,
I like that first fight. I thought it went on a. I can't remember if it's. I think the intro fight. I think the one with the adamantium like body. That was really fun. I love
hmm
that a lot.
yeah,
I think it went on a little too long,
mm,
but I thought it was funny, and I thought it was actually really inventive the way he was just like ripping bits off the body and just like tossing them at motherfuckers, and
yeah.
like he kind of throws his katana at the ground, and it like ricochets and kills the guy and stuff like that. Like it
That
was
was sick.
fun,
Yeah,
and especially to the music.
no, for
But
sure.
I thought the second fight was pretty good, and then I actually almost wish. It's weird because I don't even know which one you would remove, but I think they fought too many times or for too long. Because they are both invincible and they both attack each other, but they never really acknowledge that either one's invincible. They don't go like, "Why the fuck are we doing this?" Having said that, the car fight was great, I thought, and the way the way they just fight and then it just like rolls through time and just
Yeah,
just like cuts back to them, and it's just Wolverine has tied him up and then fallen asleep.
yeah,
That's just fucking funny.
yeah,
You don't need to show him do that. That was such a great way of like ending that fight as well, because you are a bit like, well, neither of them can die, What's the point?
Hmm.
But that's
Hmm.
like a perfect like distillation of their relationship. It's like
Yeah,
him tying him up with the seatbelts.
no, like that.
But no, yeah, was it like a Honda Odyssey or some shit like that they were
Yeah,
in? But
yeah.
yeah, I love that fight. I actually wasn't a big fan of the big team up at the end with Gambit and Wesley
All right.
Snipes and all that. I wasn't a big. That one felt like they were, oh, let's cut to Gambit, let's give him his big moment, and then it was just like it wasn't that interesting. Oh, let's cut to her and give her a big moment, and it was like, okay, I don't know. It didn't feel like they were bouncing off each other. It
Mm.
didn't feel like they had a relationship when they were fighting. It was just kind of like, oh, these people turned up on set on different days. We better like film them. Not that that's what I was thinking in the moment. That's what I
Yeah,
think now.
I get what
But
you're saying. I
and
get
it's
what you're
cynical.
saying.
It's a cynical view of it. It's like, bro, just shut up and enjoy it. But even in the moment, I couldn't even turn my brain into like Fast and Furious mode in that moment. I could for most of the rest of the film. In fact, probably all the rest of the film. But that scene, I was a bit like, this is. It's a bit. They're in a bland place, fighting bland villains. I thought, and then they're not really doing much interest. Because I thought Gambit going in, I was pretty hyped when he came out. I was like, right, I want to see him fight because I know they've done it wrong. I don't know too much about Gambit, but I know they've done it wrong in the films before. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what that done right looks like. And I was kind of disappointed by him, but and in the fight, not him as like because I thought he was fucking hilarious with the dumb accent and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, and yeah, I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of that fight, but I wasn't even a big fan of the way they went out because honestly, a lot of the things in this film, I don't. A bit similar to the villain. I don't think they need to go out from Eliath at the end either. Like especially Laura, because it's. I don't even know what universe she's from. Because like if she's from the legit Logan universe, like how did she get there? Because that universe isn't dead yet, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's confusing. That's what, yeah.
It is
The
a bit
whole
confusing.
the whole multiverse stuff is confusing. That's going to be a big gripe for every film they do going forward as well. Honestly, because like the rules are kind of all over the place. Because they do pretty much say like, oh yeah, she was from the Logan universe, the one that's fallen apart because of the anchor. Um, but yeah, no, like I see what you mean. I guess like just from a fan point of view, it's just sick to see everyone. Like it's like Endgame, but not as good as Endgame because Endgame had the build up. You know what I mean? So it's like you're there, built up. You've built up Thanos. You've built up all these other heroes. So it's like this is the moment. Whereas here, it's just like, oh, let's have like cameos everywhere and let's just see them fight
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Um, but I mean, I'll eat it
And
up.
then
but I see your point though.
the final Deadpool fight I liked, and then this will be a nice segue into the next point I want to make. But
Yeah,
I liked the big onslaught. It was kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 style, where it was like one long take, multiple enemies getting taken down by the two guys, just going ham at the thing they do. I like that. But with that said, again, a but. It seems like I hate this film. I don't hate this film. But I don't think the CGI in that scene looked particularly good, especially towards the end. And I think this is kind of a bigger problem with the whole film at times is it doesn't look great sometimes. Like like the mask is hype for Logan. Like it's cool to see him in the full get up.
yeah,
But the mask doesn't look good. It doesn't. Like I don't know if it didn't look real to me at all almost. But I feel like it was on set. So I'm like, why doesn't it look real? But maybe it wasn't on set. Maybe they were keeping that for like a reveal, I don't know. But it just didn't look great. And then there's a bit when like the very end of the fight when Deadpool like falls out the bus. That looks fucking terrible. And
mm,
like down the street looked like a PS3 cutscene, and it's like I don't know, like
yeah.
it kind of rubbed me the wrong way because I'm like I know this is a hype film and it's a hype moment in the film, but it's just like it's not something my eyes can unsee even when they're on like Fast and Furious mode.
Yeah.
I think generally that like Colossus, I know he's only in it a little bit. I thought he looked good. Things like that, like I think for most of it, the film actually does look all right. But there is just some glaring scenes where I'm like, why does it look like this? Why is it so smooth? Like,
The scenes
what's
that
going on?
confused me was when Cassandra did her hand thing in the head. Because sometimes it looked good, but other times it just looked like remember Doctor Strange with the eye in the middle of his head. Kind of like that sometimes as well, where it's just like, oh, it just looks like your body copy and pasted your fingers on his face, kind of thing. But sometimes it looked good, so it confused me. Where I'd be like, because she's moving her hand about, so at points I'm like, oh, that's creepy. But then it got to the point where I'm like, ah, it looks a bit too fake now, you know. But no, I totally agree. That's just a big flaw in Marvel in recent times as well, which is weird because they used to be known for like this having awesome CGI with like Hulk and Ultron and Thanos and just everything. Everything used to look good for the most part. Obviously there were some weak points, but for the most part the CGI was always good. But recently, in the last like maybe 5 6 years, that's just gone a bit downhill, isn't it? Like it's just every
And
film's had like a big glaring crap
yeah,
CGI blob somewhere. You know what I mean?
and we did kind of touch on this in the Acolyte as well. Like we're aware the industry's overworked in general, and that things are rushed out the door, the quality isn't there, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not exactly their fault. There also hasn't been much Marvel stuff out this year.
Not at
So
all.
I know there
Yeah.
has. So like, what's the excuse then? Because I know the thing is, I know they've pushed back Captain America, and I know visual effects are being done for that, and I know they've got things in the pipeline, and there's probably some spillover from like other projects, like even like Star Wars and stuff like that. They'll be pulling from the same pool of people. So there are other things happening,
Mm-hmm.
but this is the only Marvel project. So where is that scheduling conflict coming from? I think part of that might be because they pushed up the release date of this film from like November.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's just speculation from my part. But I don't know why it looks bad because the excuse up to this point was, well, we're releasing more content and no. But like, you're not this year, so why does it still look bad? And I'm not having a go at the folk who did it. I'm having a go at the folk who managed the people who did it. Like,
Yeah.
why does it not look good? This film's lucky in that you're not there really for like massive spectacle in the sense of like an Endgame or an Infinity War. Or, like, it doesn't need to look. You don't
Yeah,
have a
because
Thanos in it.
they're clearly going for a comic booky vibe, so they kind of get away with just bad CGI anyway. Like for example, that I gave the mask a little bit of a pass because like I'm sure it could look better, but I mean it probably looked all right in the right light. Like when they're in the at the end in the underground bit, I thought it looked all right. But see when he was like outside, I was always like, but yeah, it kind of stands out a little bit. It does look a bit too fake. Um, but also it might just because it's like really just I'm not used to it as well. You know what I mean? It's
This
probably
could
the same
be
reason why Batman hasn't done that in his films with like the white eyes because it just does look a bit too cartoony when you do that. For some reason, Deadpool just gets away with it. I don't know why, but his looks
true.
completely fine.
I mean, maybe this film's just too advanced for us because obviously this is like harkening back to like early 2000s
Mm,
comic book movies, and the CGI in those films is terrible. Maybe it was just a stylistic
maybe,
choice. Maybe
maybe.
they were just like maybe they were just like, you know what, we'll make the CGI shit on purpose because this is like a homage to those films.
Or maybe he's ran out of money after spending all that money on actors coming back. So it's just,
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
who knows? Who knows? But they're making that money back because, like I said earlier, they're breaking all the records. Highest earning rated R film opening night. Um, I think it's in the top five ever or top 10. One of them.
Well,
Which is
and that's a
crazy.
good. Is Marvel back, Brandon? Are they
It's
back?
hard to
Are
say
they gone?
because last year we had Ant-Man, which was a massive flop. Then we had Guardians, which was an absolute banger. Then we had Marvels, which was mid, probably on the bad side though. And then we've got this, which is like really good. So it's like we've had all bloody like we've had we've had all different levels. So it's I'm not willing to say Marvel's back until we've had three good films in a row. And right now, I'd say I wouldn't say Marvels was a good film. So it's like this has to start the trend. Because upcoming now we've got Captain America, which hopefully looks good because the trailer looks really good. I freaking can't wait to see Harrison Ford, and I actually really like Anthony and Mackie as Falcon.
Okay.
So
I've
I'm actually
never,
excited for that.
ever, ever, ever seen Harrison Ford excited for a
Yeah, I
project.
saw the video that you
So,
told me about. It's funny, like
so to see him try to Hulk out on stage was really funny.
yeah,
But I haven't, to be honest, I've seen him excited for films, just not any big film.
yeah,
But yeah, it's weird, especially when he's this old. It's like, bro, why you're replacing a guy that just died, but you're probably in
yeah,
like, you know what I mean? You might even be in the same position like in a couple films.
yeah. Who
But
knows? But
who knows?
my point is like so we've got Captain America, and then after that I think it's Thunderbolts, and then we've got Fantastic Four. So it's like it's up to those next three films to kind of like right maintain the motivation, not motivation, the momentum.
Momentum.
Yeah, then I'll decide if Marvel's back or not. Because we keep saying that, we're after like, oh, Guardians is like 10 out of 10, Marvel's back, and then Marvel's just like, oh, so it's like, but the thing is, they've got TV shows as well, where it's like, well, they're rarely good, so like that could always
People
screw up it as
people say
well.
the shows are diluting the brand, but I think that's only like, and they're right, but I think that's only because they're bad. I
Yeah.
don't think if the shows were consistently good. I think if the shows were consistently good and they could maintain quality across film and TV while doing film and TV,
Hmm.
I don't think Marvel would be in a pickle. I think I don't. Well, I don't even think they're in a pickle because they still make money. Well,
Yeah.
most of the time.
Yeah.
But like the only reason it's diluting the brand is because the quality isn't there. But like they're the biggest movie studio on the planet, right? So why isn't the quality still there? They have access to more people than anything else. It's like
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't really buy that.
Yeah. Well, like you said like, oh, they still make money depending on the film, where it's like compared to like the Marvels, right? The most recent one before this, who actually gave a toss about Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel, and I can't remember the other lassie's name, versus like Wolverine Deadpool. So obviously the hype's there. You know what I mean? Like, because this is Wolverine. Hugh Jackman's been Wolverine since bloody 2000. That's a long time. You know what I mean? He's been the only Wolverine ever on screen, and then Deadpool as well. His last two films made freaking tons of money, really popular. So of course the hype's there. Whereas like the Marvels, there's not much hype there. So I don't even understand why the film was even made in the first place. Because it's like it just feels like wasted materials because it's just not saying it was going to be a flop because the first Captain Marvel did really well, but the reviews were kind of mid. So it's just like you kind of need to read your audience a little bit more. You know what I mean? It's like I'd say the same if they tried to make an Eternals too, because it's just like nobody really cares about Eternals. So why waste your resources on that? You know what I mean? We want to see Fantastic Four, we want to see X-Men, we want to see all these other things. Stop wasting your stuff on this sort of stuff. You know what I mean? But this kind of proves my point, though. Obviously, this is like freaking uh, it's a bit of a cheat because you do have freaking Deadpool and Wolverine as the stars of the movie, so it's like you don't get that all the time. But if you do compare it to all the other successes Marvel's recently had, there's a reason why there's flops. You know what I mean? Everyone's willing to see these Marvel films. It says a lot when it doesn't make money and nobody watches it. That's a big like sign to me that oh
Yeah.
right, nobody cares about this then. Let's move on. You know? And it's not like they've not done it before. Like this whole Kang thing has just been swept under the rug. You know what I mean? And he was supposed to be the next bloody Thanos in this big storyline, but they've just renamed his movie to Doomsday. You know what I mean? So it's like they're
I
they're
actually
totally willing to get rid of that sort of stuff.
I think honestly he might even be worse than Thanos. Not in terms of character, but in terms of like how much they built him up. Because Thanos realistically wasn't even cast as Josh Brolin. Josh Brolin wasn't even cast as him until Infinity War.
True.
He didn't look the same as he did in the earlier post-credit scenes or whatever. You know, it was like he was around and he was teased, but it
There's
wasn't in the form he was going to be. Whereas Kang was actually cast, he was a character in the universe that we'd spent some time with, and
yeah.
then they swept him under the rug. So it's not, it's even worse than that,
Hmm.
honestly. And they managed it, I think.
Was
Well, I don't know if they've managed it, but they've done it.
was
Yeah.
Josh Brolin not Thanos in Guardians?
I don't think so. No.
I have no idea. It doesn't look like him obviously because he got a whole change up. I can't remember if he voiced him or not.
Yeah.
But
No,
either
I'm
way,
almost
but
certain.
yeah, you make a good point. So it's like I'm glad they're able to sort of. And the thing is, they realise it as well. They even make jokes in the bloody film that he's like, "Oh, Deadpool's like, oh, you've joined Marvel at the worst time. Like, we're not doing so hot right now. You know, like they're fully aware of their success right now. You know, people are kind of making fun of them for how
Yeah.
not.
And
I don't want to say bad because there's been good films. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't want to say that all of it's been bad. And I think you are taking the piss if somebody does say everything's been bad because there have been bangers. You know what I mean? Like Guardians. I like Shang-Chi, Spider-Man. You know, there's been good films.
uh,
Um,
I think when people
but
say
yeah,
like Marvel's back for Deadpool, and I know the thing is people are like, don't look into this film too much. It's silly, so why bother looking into it too much?
mhm.
In terms of like the Marvel canon, how high can you put this film?
Well, if you're compared to other films,
Yeah,
it's hard to say because like to me, it's kind of like Guardians, where it's like how much influence does Marvel have over the film? Like obviously a lot, but like clearly this is like a Ryan Reynolds film, just like Guardians is a James Gunn film. You know what I mean? It's like they feel like they too have specific control over what happens in these movies. Whereas like I'm sure when we get to Captain America, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be very like organized from like the high ups, Kevin Feige and stuff like that. Whereas I feel like Ryan and Guardians get more leeway to do their to tell their story and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's going to be difficult, but I do hope.
Yeah, on that.
I do
You're
hope.
definitely right on that point, and I
Yeah.
agree. I guess I mean more in terms of if you're looking at like the quality of the writing and
Mm.
does the story come together, things like that. If you're putting that up against their Marvel films, I don't think this one fares that well. Honestly, I think it's got a lot of the problems that I have with recent Marvel. I
Yeah.
think a lot of that's just masked because one, the cameos are good, two, the jokes land most of the time, and three, you just have like uber charisma from Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds, where
Hmm.
you can kind of ignore it. And this kind of comes back to a point we brought up in the Acolyte, is that we're willing to forgive mistakes in something and enjoy it if it's an enjoyable watch. The
Hmm.
problem is a lot of the glaring issues in the Acolyte stand out because there's nothing else to distract your attention. There is no
Yeah.
charisma on screen.
Yeah.
Whereas this is kind of this is kind of like emblematic of exactly that point that we brought up, is that
Hmm.
there are a lot of issues with this film, but we can still give it a high score and
Yeah.
enjoy it because
Like
Ryan Reynolds
like
and
the
Hugh Jackman are
CGI. The
just so
CGI
good at
is
what they're doing.
bad, but like you're saying, yeah, the actors are all really entertaining and likable, and the cameos are keeping us distracted and stuff like that. So it's like we're just constantly being fed. So it's like we don't even have time to react to the negative stuff, you know. So it's just it's smart. It's smart what they've done, you know. But it's like you said, a second watch is going to be an interesting experience because I don't. You're
Yeah.
not going to have the same reactions and stuff. Unlike Endgame, where it's like, nah, I still love it. You know, it's like I could still get hype over those moments and stuff like that. So no, it's going to
Yeah,
be interesting.
100%. I think
And
it's going to fall prey to some of the similar
mm,
issues people have nowadays with No Way Home,
yeah,
basically. I think it's going to follow that trend,
and it's
honestly. Maybe even worse.
I
But
think it kind of sets up what Secret Wars is probably going to feel like as well, where it's just going to be like cameo bloody dump, you know, just like, oh, here's everyone. Because that's kind of what Secret Wars might be, just like, you know, multiverses colliding and stuff like that.
I think you're definitely right, but I honestly want to give the Russos more of the benefit of the
Well,
doubt
yeah,
to
because
do
that's
that.
recent news, because we didn't know they were going to be doing these films until like literally last week, or even before that. Um, so, yeah, hopefully we get some more meat in our material and not just, like you said, the sort of uh, yeah, just the cameos, like pointless cameos. Like I said, I'm all down for pointless cameos, but I mean, I prefer if they're used like within the story as well. You know what I mean? That's why I like the Toby and Andrew because like at least they were integrated into the film. Um, they were actually a big part of Act Three, for example. Whereas like in Doctor Strange, they get introduced and they just die. It's like, oh well, okay, well for that then. You know, just like it's sick in the moment, but then it's like, oh, it meant nothing in the end. You know, it didn't actually amount to anything. Whereas these guys in this film, I think for the most part, it's probably going to end up like Doctor Strange, maybe, where it's just like in the moment it's cool, but a year later, we're just going to look back and think, oh well, it didn't really mean anything. You know, it's just like a cameo for the sake of a cameo. But in the moment, it's sick, so it's hard. It's hard to judge it at this early on. Um, but I did enjoy it more than Doctor Strange, way more. And I was a big fan of Doctor Strange at the time, the second one. So I think it's going to have similar issues as that, I feel like, going forward. But time will
So
tell.
I would say to the question, is Marvel back? I would say mm,
Stay tuned.
no. I think the Marvel writers are not back. I think the Marvel charisma is possibly back.
And you know what? That's almost just as important because I feel like recently in Marvel, we've not had like leading characters like we just got in this film. You know what I mean? Like Deadpool and Hugh Jackman carry the film, not carry it, but you know what I mean. Like they're like they're the beacons of the film. The people you're automatically into because of how charismatic they are and how big of a screen presence they have. Whereas if you I don't want to like dump on freaking Marvels all the time, but when you go to Marvels, nobody really is like that. You go to Eternals, nobody's really like that. You go to even Wakanda Forever, nobody's really like that. So it's just like you kind of need those people that have big screen presence. It's a shame that Thor: Love and Thunder doesn't have that because freaking I love um what's his name? Chris Hemsworth. He usually does have that
Christian
screen
Bale.
presence. But it just didn't hit that film. So it's
That
like
film had Christian Bale and
that's what I mean. Like that's not an
uh,
epic fail when you can't even win on those merits. But yeah, I think that's always been important in Marvel, where like the leading characters are just instantly likable and like you want to watch them. You don't go to the film to watch the film. You go to the film to like just have fun with these characters and like experience them. Like Captain America, Iron Man. Like Iron Man had two, in your opinion, because you didn't like three, two bad films. I would say it's got one bad film, one mid film, one good film. But it's like the Iron Man's still like the best character. You know what I mean? Like freaking, we want to watch more. You know, we don't even care about the film. Just give us Bully Iron Man. Which, funnily enough, we're probably gonna get bored soon. Just not as Iron Man. Um, you know,
yeah.
which is gonna be
Yeah.
interesting. That's a whole different conversation. But
I'm actually I know a lot of people are from I don't want to get into this too much, that could be its whole own video, but I'm pretty positive on the decision, even though it's I obviously see the business incentive behind that.
yeah, yeah,
And obviously like getting the fans back on your side. But as a fan, I'm perfectly happy for them to shoehorn me into getting back on their side.
yeah. I'm
Um,
at first I was kind of down on it, but then when I heard like the possible ideas they might go with, I was like, okay, that's interesting. But the big sell for me is like, okay, the Russo brothers are directing them. You
yeah.
know,
And
that's like it's kind of hard to not back that. So it's like, you know,
the second big thing keeping me going with it is that like watching Oppenheimer with Robert Downey Jr. I hope they play Doom that series. I don't know fuck all about Doom, but as a villain, if you're bringing back Tony Stark as a villain,
mhm.
like Robert Downey Jr. as a villain, make him do that.
Yeah,
Don't make him do Tony Stark. Make
that
him do Strauss.
that's my big thing. I
That
don't
level.
want them to do a Tony Stark impression. I want this to be a new character. You know what I mean? I know it's a variant, but I don't want any
Well,
of that. You know?
this could be reading into their words too much, but on stage they do say Victor Von Doom. They
Yeah.
don't say Doctor Doom. They say the new Victor Von Doom is Robert Downey Jr. So
Hmm.
I'm assuming they're going Victor Von Doom, which
Yeah.
is really like you say, it could also be tied to Tony, obviously, but I'm.
I,
And to be fair, that reveal in itself is fucking hype. Him coming on stage with all those masks and then just like ripping it
it's
off, and
sick.
it's like,
It's
oh,
sick.
fucking, it
They
was
they
really
were
good.
setting you up because they were saying like we could only get the best actor in the world to play this character, and who just recently won Best Actor? Cillian Murphy. So everyone's like maybe like, oh, was it Cillian Murphy? It's like, oh no, who was second place? Oh, freaking Robert Downey Jr. So I was like, okay. So no,
Disappointing.
it was a sick reveal. It was a sick reveal, but no,
Ah,
it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see.
this may age like milk, but I'm pretty optimistic, honestly. The
Yeah.
so to round off on Deadpool,
Hmm.
why don't you give? I want to give some of my like because I've kind of ratted on the film. I want to give some like very positive highlights of like highlights in the film basically,
Okay.
and then we'll probably just end on a high note unless you have anything else major you'd like to say.
No, I'll spin off you.
Sick.
Yep.
Uh, the jokes that really landed for me, Hugh Jackman's divorce. I
Oh,
guess that's a shame, but that
mate,
was really
the
funny.
Jennifer Gardner divorce got me as well with the whole Daredevil thing as well. It
Yep,
was hilarious.
that was fucking hilarious.
Honestly.
The car fight, hilarious, and I liked it. I liked the way it was choreographed, and it was
Yeah,
shot quite funnily as well. I liked it. What other drone? I like the intro a lot, even though it like fucking in sync, man. Like,
brilliant. That's my jam.
but yeah,
So I'm
brilliant.
all down.
It's totally not my jam, but I still enjoyed it. And I like that it's kept its kind of identity as a Deadpool thing. And
Yeah,
I like that honestly, I don't think you need a Deadpool 4. I'm perfectly happy for Deadpool to just be around in Marvel. You know?
it's gonna be
Like,
tough because, like we said, it's made money, so it's kind of hard to like deny this now. You know what I mean? And it's technically the first Deadpool in the MCU, so it's like it's not
yes.
even really got to. milk
around
them yet.
running. Yeah,
You know what I mean? So
but even just like the idea of him being in like Secret Wars, something like that, where it's
Spider-Man,
just like,
like,
how is he
you
gonna?
know.
Because you know what I mean, he's so strange compared to everyone else.
Hmm.
It's like he has so much potential that no one else has. And you can say She-Hulk, but like, who actually cares about that?
But the way he works, he could literally cameo in every film. Not that I want that to happen. But I'm saying like there's a
Yeah, yeah,
possibility he could just show up whenever. You know what I mean? Which I think could be funny. Like I wouldn't mind him replacing the sort of Stan Lee cameo. That could be pretty interesting. Obviously not like don't make it blatant, but like just like a little something. I don't know because the Stan Lee stuff is always
yeah.
fun. Um, but yeah, so
And
I don't know.
Hugh Jackman, stellar.
Oh, of course. That was a big. That was actually a big worry for me because obviously as a fan, I mean Logan's probably like top five superhero films for me. So I was kind of worried that they were going to kind of mess it up because I'm like that's such a perfect ending to Hugh Jackman and the Wolverine character. But it's like just a bit of fun, you know. It's just like I forget why not, you know. Just like it'd be so much worse if it just felt like a cash grab, which it might have been, but they did it really well. You know, they gave him a story. They didn't just like bring him back from the dead and whatever, because it's not the same Logan. So I
No.
think that kind of helped
And
as well.
a big part of that is they do definitely distinguish him as he says his catchphrase, like he says "bub,"
But
and he has the yellow costume.
yeah. And speaking of which,
He's
I
got the
liked his
haircut.
little story as well. Like it wasn't like focused on too much or whatever, but I liked this whole backstory of like, oh, he's the reason the X Men died, and that's why he's like so moody and stuff and whatever. And I like how Laura's the one that kind of got him back, where she was like, "Oh, Wolverine was never meant to be the main guy," you know. But in the right moment, he decided to be whatever. So that kind of convinced them to do it. Like I said, you didn't even need that much screen time with them. In that one sort of conversation, it's like, okay, his character arc's happened. You know, it's like we've done it. You know, we don't need to hamper on it too much. Because at the end of the day, it's more of a Deadpool film. Like, let's be honest. But like Wolverine did need his little character arc, and I think they did that really well.
I agree. I think the humor is mostly on point, and actually, in general, I think it's even just in the TVA when they're in the room and there's that guy just staring at Deadpool.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? Like stuff like that, where it's just like, what's going on? And like even just, I don't know, Deadpool almost felt like it was pushing even further with the comedy as well, where it wouldn't have gone. Maybe not where it wouldn't have gone, but I don't know. It felt cheekier in this film than it usually does in the
mm,
other two. I think they're going for more low-hanging fruit than the other films are sometimes, but they're also doing like, oh, I don't want to get cancelled, or like, oh, the woke mob's gonna come for you, like shit like that as well, or like Gossip Girl jokes and stuff like that, where
yeah.
that's definitely in the other ones as well, but those are
It
funny.
is bloody nice Pool. Is it nice Pool? I think that's what they call them. He's like, I can break the fourth wall as well. The proposal. It's like, bruh,
Yeah,
like, it's
that
like,
was great. Yeah.
you know. No, like, I love that stuff. Of that. So obviously, I didn't get every single reference, but the references I did get, I
Yeah.
typically did get a laugh out of me. You know,
And I
so
think they had that perfect because the fourth wall can definitely go too far.
yeah. But She-Hulk, for example,
Well, and
you know,
they've always walked that line really well
yeah,
in these films, and they continue. And I guess that's my biggest positive about this film is that it still feels like the other two. It doesn't feel like Marvel's tampered with. And you
yes,
alluded to
yeah,
this earlier. It feels like a Ryan Reynolds thing,
hmm,
in the same way that Guardians feels like, in the same way that Guardians 3 still felt like James Gunn, even after all that drama.
hmm,
This does feel like Marvel's had their finger in the pie, but it doesn't feel like they've ruined the pie with their finger in it either. You
yeah.
know, there's
See,
definitely influence, but they've left him. And like you say, like he can criticize the MCU and stuff like that.
yeah,
That's I'm glad that's there. That is, if that wasn't there, that would be a very big negative.
because
So the fact that that's even there is
you're
positive.
not getting that out of Star Wars. No chance. They refuse to admit their mistakes. So you're never getting that. So it's nice to see them being self-aware. Which I mean, it's blatantly obvious. You know what I mean? There's definitely been a bit of a fall off. But I wanted to just quickly jump on your point with the fourth wall breaking. Do you? I mean, there's sure there's other like reasons why it doesn't really work in She-Hulk, but like, do you think it is because it's like Ryan Reynolds and how charismatic he is, and maybe I can't remember the woman who played She-Hulk, but maybe she doesn't have that same sort of vibe, so she doesn't get away with it like he does, or
I think the ending of She-Hulk you could probably pull off in a Deadpool thing and it would work.
yeah, yeah. But I think it's more earned as well. You know what I mean? Because like to do that
Yeah,
in your
but the
first
idea,
outing is kind of like,
well, what are we
you know,
talking about? Like, we're talking about like it's not exactly the same, but the ending to Deadpool 2 is kind of analogous to the ending of She-Hulk.
what
He
would
does
he?
just go back and rewrite the story. He
Yeah.
does just go back in time and undo the story, you know? Like she does, I mean, she does that by visiting the writers, which is another step, but it's not too much of a step over just getting the time doohickey. So I think Deadpool can get away with it,
Hmm.
you know? Yeah, I think part of that might just come down to what we were saying about Acolyte as well, where it's like, well, if we're not invested in this character, we're not going to let her get away with things we don't like. Whereas if we like Deadpool, like, sure, he can get away with dumb shit, you know? So it could just be, like you say, as simple as forget her name in She-Hulk. But to be fair, I didn't think she was terrible. But she just doesn't have the Ryan Reynolds factor that this film does. So yeah, it could be that. But
Yeah, I think we're on the same page with that. That he pulls up there.
yeah, well, I don't think that's in doubt. But I think it's like, could he get away with the She-Hulk ending? But just have that be
Yeah,
Deadpool do that.
because I don't
I
think
think
it's
so.
well. Just as the last point, how do you think he's going to be used in Secret Wars? Because like I think he's a bit of a main player these days. You know what I mean? He must be in the sort of main cast, but I can imagine it being hard to kind of not look at Deadpool. You know what I mean? Because he's such like a captivating character. Where it's like, would he just
I
take
think,
away from the scenes where if like every other character was around him? You know?
well, yeah, and I don't know if you can put him in the same way that you can put in. I think he might even serve like a similar purpose, like similar in a similar way that Captain Marvel did in Endgame, where it was like she appeared and like killed something big, but she didn't finish off the big guy, you
He's not
know?
a recurring character for the film. He's just sort of
Yeah.
there when we need him,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
He comes in and
Yeah,
he maybe makes a joke about where have I been? Oh, who cares? Like, you know,
yeah.
it's the third act, I'm here, sort of thing. Like, yeah, it could just be something like that. But
Because honestly, for me, before the movies, I honestly wasn't a big Deadpool fan. I just didn't like the idea of him. But the movies kind of convinced me, like, no, it's doable. You can make him work. But there's definitely like I imagine there could be too much of him. So in the Avengers movies, I think they do need to kind of limit how much he's in it because he's going to be in them. I think it would be funny because he's a R-rated character. There's no way around it. But it'd be funny if in the Avengers films they censor him a little bit, like literally, like bleep out his swears and stuff like that. I think that'd be hilarious if they did that. And he's like reacting to it as well, where he's like, "Stop bleeping me," like that sort of thing. I think that'd be kind of funny, just to have him there without taking away part of his character, because it is going to be kind of hard to blend them when you get to these Avengers films, because they're not going to be R-rated. They want to make money. They want to make good
well,
big money, so they ain't
I
going
think
to
yeah.
up the rating on
And
that.
there's two worries here. Is that one, Hollywood hasn't worked out that Ryan Reynolds is going to burn out if he keeps doing what he's doing because
Hmm.
if they put him in everything
Yeah,
and he never changes who he is, people are going to get sick of him. I mean, they might not. He might still be making money, but it's when his humor is so close to Deadpool that it worries me that Ryan Reynolds' other films might burn out Deadpool
right.
when Deadpool is like his strongest thing, you know?
Yeah,
The other thing is can Marvel hold back, you know? Because like, if Hollywood can't do that, can Marvel go right? We're aware that this could be too much, so we're gonna make him take a step back, and
yeah,
he's only gonna come out of the box when we want to make $1 billion, you know?
yeah,
Like
yeah. Fair. No, I like that. I like that.
the other thing is, I think it would be just to follow your point about the censoring, because you in America, the rules in the UK are probably different or slightly
Mm,
different, but in America, I'm pretty sure it's like you get two fucks in a PG-13,
right.
right? It would be funny if they'd used the two fucks on other characters, and then he comes into the film and tries to do it,
That'd be
and he
funny.
can't.
That'd be funny.
That would be funny.
It even
But
mentions like, "Oh God, you've used up my f bombs." You know, it's
yeah, he moans at
yeah,
them.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that'd be good. That'd be good. So I mean, play off of that. That should that honestly, they will. I reckon they will do that. That is too funny to
Yeah.
pass up. But yeah, sweet.
But
Yeah, awesome,
I think that's it from us.
awesome.
Very positive with a lot of negatives, so it's really hard to rate because the more I think
Yeah.
about this, the less I like it. But then also, the more I'm giving it a pass. It's like it's a weird one. I'm gonna go see it. I reckon I'm gonna go see it again this week just
Probably,
to
yeah, probably same.
see
I'll
it
like
again.
go after work or something at some point. Yeah.
Because it was a good time. And I do think you can have a good time. Because the thing is, we can say, oh, on the second time it might not be as good a film, but also if you go into the cinema with the expectation that they're not gonna feel the same as they did when you watched it with your friends, you can also be more fair to it for what it is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because it would also be unfair to say, oh, I know this isn't going to be the same, and I'm going to judge it accordingly. You know?
Hmm.
Even though you're aware, like yeah, if you have that self-awareness, it's also probably going to be a good experience just even on the second catch. But
For sure.
I will say this film does do, just as a closing point, or my closing point, this film does make me want to go back and watch the other stuff
Yeah. I
that
was
I
gonna
haven't missed.
mention that. Yeah.
I would not be surprised if Blade has a big resurgence on Disney Plus or wherever it is.
Hmm.
Same with the X-Men films. It makes me want to go back and watch the first couple X-Men, like the first go at the X-Men, you
Yeah.
know?
Because I think it did a really good job, kind of like honoring the past. You know what I mean? Like they really did, like because even mate, the bloody credits, man, actually kind of gave me the feels. Like looking back behind the scenes of like all the films beforehand, so it did feel like a big goodbye to Fox, like for its MCU and stuff. Because like as much as Disney could have been dicks about it, they could have been like all high and mighty. It's like, oh no, it's not to talk about Fox. It's like, nah, they actually honored everything that came before. So it's like fair play, you know what I mean? So it's like I really do like that because like at the end of the day, I did grow up with these films, not necessarily the X Men films. I didn't grow up with them until maybe I was like at high school age. But, like I grew up with Fantastic Four. You know what I mean? That was my jam when I was like, 6 years old. You know, Jessica Alba was my first celebrity crush. You know, so it's like I've got nostalgia for this stuff. So like to look back and see it all, it's freaking sick. You know what I mean? So it's just nice
Yeah.
that they were able to do that. And I think all like even though the cameos might just be a bit of cash grabs, it's probably nice for the actors as well, just to get their last piece in. You know, like Wesley Snipes and Jennifer Gardner and stuff like that. And finally Channing Tatum get his role. You know what I mean? I'm sure like that's
Yeah.
nice for them as well.
And
You know, so
especially because they were kind of like together because none of them had been finished.
hmm yeah,
You know, like none of their film series became like got finished. So it's nice that they got closure, even though I'm not
for
exactly happy
sure,
with it. But
for sure.
it's nice that they at least came back. The other thing is I was kind of the same in the credits. I don't even like those films that much, but I was like, man, this is getting me. But
Yeah,
um,
that's sick.
the I do think this is the farewell to Fox, but this is not going to be the last time we see the Fox
Nah.
characters either.
And we got Secret Wars coming up. That's gonna be the
Secret
film.
Wars is it's gotta have like McAvoy and Fassbender,
That'd be sick,
surely.
man.
Yeah, like at least.
That'd be sick.
And like probably James Marsden Cyclops, maybe even Ty Sheridan. Is that his name? Ty Sheridan Cyclops as well.
Yeah.
Like I, you know what I mean? Like it's gotta have like some of those
Because
surely. So
one of Robert's points was that, oh, you wish he's got to see the X Men. I'm like, bro, you're getting the X Men. You're gonna get them at some point. Probably Secret Wars. I assume he means the old X Men like Halle Berry, Storm, and stuff like that. I guarantee you're gonna get
yeah.
little cameos of that. And then after Secret Wars, we're finally gonna have the X Men storyline happen with
Yeah.
new castings and stuff like that.
The Secret Wars cameos are gonna feel more like the Endgame finale
Yeah,
than
yeah.
you know what I mean? You don't want to blow your load too soon with like Deadpool and just bring everyone back.
I
So
just
and
hope
you
they do a
also
better version of Flash because they could just do that where it's like, oh, look all these other universes. You know, I hope they actually do
right.
something with it. You know, rather than just, oh, here's Halle Berry. You know, so
As in, not because I thought you meant Quicksilver there, but as in the Flash, the film.
yeah,
Don't do that. What that film did.
you know, at
Yeah.
the end where it's like, oh, you get to see all the universes and oh, there's Christopher
Yeah.
Reeve and stuff. It's like, no, let's like actually use them if we're going to do that. Don't just make it like a little glimpse. It's like, all right, brilliant. I'll forget about that next week.
Brilliant. He's been dead for years.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. But no, sweet. Yeah, I think we had different opinions for this. I think obviously we had some sharing ones as well, but yeah, it was interesting conversation. Yeah,
and well, I hope so for our audience as well. And
exactly.
I think we'll close out by saying thank you for listening. If you're still here, and check out our videos every Sunday. And look out for more of these kind of standalone videos on the channel for bigger films. So if you see a bigger film out, you know you can come here. Thank you for watching.
Hey.